When the bank called to confirm a loan I never signed, I realized my own daughter was still using my name. I didn't cry this time. I called my lawyer. 2 weeks later, I sat across from her, closing every door she could still walk through. And that's where the real story begins. Name's Delphine R. Kersey. 65 years old, retired from the city tax office after 42 years of watching other people's numbers and still double-checking my own. My kitchen has always been my thinking place. The same oak table Raymond bought on credit back in '89. The same hum from that ceiling fan that's been patched more times than I can count. It's late August, and Houston heat doesn't know how to quit. I sit there with my stack of bills, pension paperwork, and a cup of peppermint tea that's gone cold, telling myself I'll sleep when the math makes sense. The night hums steady until I hear tires crunch in my driveway. Too fast. I don't need to look out the window. Only one person still drives like that. My daughter? Sable? I whisper to myself. When your child shows up without calling, it's never for hugs. She doesn't knock twice, just walks in, all perfume and nerves. Her nails are fresh, but her hands shake. I've known those hands since they were sticky with peanut butter, and I can read them like scripture. "Mama," she says, trying that soft tone she saves for church. "You look good. How's your pressure?" I nod, watching her eyes dart toward the table. She's not here for small talk. She's here for rescue. She hugs me before I answer, holding on too long. My stomach knots. People only hug that hard when they're about to break your heart. We sit. She reaches in her tote and slides out a folder like she's pitching a product. It's just a bridge. "Mama, a little help for 60 days. Harlan's commission is late. Real estate's slow. You know." Her voice has that rehearsed rhythm, like she practiced in the mirror. I ask, "What kind of help?" She smiles, too bright. 60 for 60, that's it." I blink. "Say the whole number." She stares at the table. 60,000. The word falls heavy. My stomach tightens. "Just cosign, Mama," she adds quickly. "You don't have to move any money, they just need your credit." She says, "Our emergency, not my emergency." That word "our" slices clean through me. She wants to make her chaos my obligation. I keep my tone calm. "Does Harlan know you're here?" She hesitates. "He's just under pressure. I'm trying not to worry him." That stumble tells me everything. She isn't shielding him, she's hiding the truth. I stand, rinse a clean cup, and let the water run loud so she can't hear the tremor in my breath. My mind races through my accounts, the mortgage I almost finished, the little cushion from Raymond's insurance. At my age, money isn't freedom, it's survival. Lose it, and you become a guest in someone else's life. When I turn back, she's sliding papers across the table, real documents, highlighted signature lines, my name already typed under secondary guarantor, my address filled in. "You filled this out already?" I ask. She nods fast, just to save time. Her smile wobbles. I see the lie sitting behind her teeth. "Mama, please," she whispers. "You know I'm not like Daddy." My heart jerks. She's using my grief as leverage. "Don't do that," I tell her quietly. "Don't use the dead to hustle the living." But she keeps talking, voice small and sweet. "You're the only one I trust." I look her straight in the eye. 60 for 60, huh? She nods, relief flashing across her face like she thinks I've agreed. I haven't. I'm just memorizing every word. A week later, I'm back at that table. Same chair, same bills, but now an email from the lender sits open. The number isn't 60 anymore. With fees and interest, it's more than I made my first 5 years married, the note says. Primary responsibility, Delphine R. Kersey. My hands go cold. I whisper. She used my name like a pawn ticket. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. A bank rep says politely, "Mr. Kersey, we just need to confirm you understand the total liability." I hang up before she finishes. They're not calling Sable. They're calling me. I stare at the window, Houston sky heavy in gold, and say to no one, my own child just put my house on the gambling table. The drive from Houston to Dallas felt longer than usual. I left before sunrise, hoping the road noise would drown out my thoughts. Sable had said, "Mama, it's just a small family cookout, real casual." I packed a lemon pound cake, wore a linen dress, and told myself to expect folding chairs and cousins' laughter. But when I turned the corner to her house, I saw the truth. White tents, a catering truck, and valet parking. This wasn't family, it was theater. A young man in a blazer handed me a name tag before I could blink. "You're with the Keene party?" he asked, and I realized I wasn't being greeted as Sable's mother. I was an accessory. My daughter came floating across the lawn, arms wide, calling "Mama" loud enough for everyone to hear. Her smile was wide, but her grip on my arm was tight. "Just keep conversation light, okay?" she whispered. That meant don't mention money, don't mention the loan, don't mention the truth. Everywhere I looked, I saw people rehearsing wealth. The champagne sparkled, laughter was timed. Seraphine D'Amour sat near the patio fountain, surrounded by admirers. Women like her don't shout, they slice you with politeness. When she glanced my way, she smiled like someone greeting a maid who'd stayed too long. I nodded back. I'd seen her kind before, the sort who collect people the way they collect handbags. Then Sable began her introductions. "This is Seraphine," she said, beaming. "She's basically shown me how to run a real household." Her voice went soft, almost worshipful. Then she turned to me. "And this is Delphine. She helped us out back when things were rough. Just that. No mama, no grandmother. 38 years of mothering compressed into a polite afterthought." The crowd smiled, nodding like they understood. But I felt something in me go very still. I said, "We go way back," and smiled small. Inside, though, my pulse beat slow and heavy. My own child had just written me out of her story, in front of strangers holding shrimp cocktails. A man nearby asked Sable where she learned her poise. She said, "Oh, Seraphine's been such a mentor." I watched Seraphine tilt her glass and take the credit with ease. I realized in that moment, this was the real payment. Sable didn't just want my signature. She wanted my silence. When Sable pulled out her phone to film clips, I stepped aside. I noticed she never turned the camera toward me. 3 generations of strong women. She laughed, pointing it at herself, Seraphine, and little Arden on Seraphine's lap. I wasn't in a single frame. When she called Seraphine Mom for the video, it hit me harder than the debt ever could. It wasn't an accident. It was marketing. I excused myself to the half bath inside. The mirror there was small, but honest. I looked at my reflection, creased but steady. Lipstick still perfect. Eyes tired, I whispered, "They're trying to delete me." That sentence felt like confession and warning all at once. I dabbed my face, fixed my earrings, and said to myself, "Don't give them a scene. Give them silence. Silence they can't quote against you." Back outside, laughter rose like a wave. I heard Sable call me sweet from across the lawn, the same way you'd talk about a pet. I was walking toward the gate when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, Houston area code. I almost ignored it, but instinct said answer. "This is Delphine," I said. A polite male voice replied, "Ma'am, We're confirming the liability for the loan co-signed by Ms. Sable Maynard. My breath hitched. How much? I asked. He read a number, higher than 60,000, higher, with interest. My stomach tightened. I thanked him, hung up, and steadied myself against the fence. Across the yard. My daughter was laughing like her world was spotless. I whispered. My name's on her dream, but my blood's on the line. I straightened up, walked back to the table, and smiled the kind of smile that means war has just gone quiet. I didn't need to shout. I just started listening, memorizing every lie. Sunday morning came gray and heavy. My body ached from the long drive, but my mind was clearer than it had been in months. I sat at my kitchen table, the same one where Sable had slid those papers across, and listened to the ceiling fan hum its old rhythm. The house was still, but it wasn't peaceful. There's a difference between quiet and calm. Quiet just means no one's talking. Calm means no one's lying. The smell of coffee filled the room, strong, black, and bitter. The way I needed it. I looked out the window at my little backyard, sunlight bouncing off the fence, and said to myself, all right, Delphine. No crying today. Just thinking. I opened my laptop and checked my savings. Then I printed every email, every document with my name on it. Each one went into a folder labeled House. Legal. I wasn't panicking. I was preparing. When you've lived long enough, you learn the difference. I scrolled through my contacts until I saw Sable's name glowing on the screen. My finger hovered, but I didn't press it. She'd only give me another story, another half-truth. Instead, I scrolled to Harlan Keene. I whispered, if I go to the liar, I get a lie. If I go to the man who signs the checks, I get the truth. Then I took a long breath, the kind you take before a court hearing, and hit call. Hey, Miss Delphine, he answered, cheerful and unguarded. We just saw you yesterday. Everything okay? Not exactly, I said. I got a call from the bank. Silence, then confusion. Bank? What bank? The one holding the line of credit your wife signed, with my name under hers. I heard papers shuffle, a chair scrape, a low curse. His tone dropped an octave. Wait, what do you mean, your name? You didn't know, I said quietly. He paused, exhaled through his teeth. Miss Delphine, I'll call you back. The line went dead. I set the phone down and let out a breath that felt like steam escaping a pipe. 10 minutes later, it rang again. Sable. Mama, why did you call him? She shouted before I could speak. You don't understand what you've done. I kept my voice even. I understand exactly. I told you to tell your husband before I did. Her tone cracked. You've embarrassed me. Baby, I said, slow and measured. You embarrassed yourself. I just turned on the lights. There was a silence thick enough to taste, then a click. She hung up. By late afternoon, the sun had turned orange over Houston. The phone rang again. Harlan this time. His voice was calm, but it carried the kind of weight that only truth brings. Miss Delphine, he said. I saw the document. It's worse than I thought. She forged my signature, too. There are more accounts, credit lines I didn't even know about. I didn't say anything at first. I just listened to the sound of a man realizing his whole marriage was built on borrowed money. I'm sorry, he said. I swear I didn't know. Can we meet? Just you and me. I need to understand how deep this goes. We'll meet, I replied, but not alone. We'll meet with my lawyer. That stopped him. He cleared his throat. Understood. After he hung up, I reached for the old leather phone book where I still kept numbers written by hand. I found Porter Renoir, attorney at law, and dialed. When he answered, I said, "Porter, we need to talk about legal exposure and asset protection." When I hung up, I opened my notebook and wrote at the top, October. Clean the house. I meant it in every way possible. Then I took one last sip of coffee, cold now but strong as ever, and said aloud, "I'm done saving people who spend my savings." Right then, my phone lit up again. The name on the screen made me laugh under my breath. Seraphine D'Amour, of course. The performance wasn't over. It was just moving to a bigger stage. We picked a place halfway between Houston and Dallas, a chain restaurant off I-45 where the booths stick to your legs and the waitress calls everyone baby. Neutral ground. Not her house. Not mine. That alone told me this meeting wasn't about healing. It was about containment. I arrived first and sat under a buzzing fluorescent light that made everything look harsher than it needed to. The air smelled like fried onions and lemon wedges. This was no Dallas garden party. This was where real talk lived. Sable walked in 10 minutes late, sunglasses on though the sun was setting. She looked polished but cracked, lipstick perfect, eyes raw. She slid into the booth without a hello. "We need to talk about what you did," she said flatly. "No, Mama. When she's angry, I become you." I folded my hands and smiled. "All right, let's talk." My voice was calm because calm is power. I've led meetings scarier than this one. "You lied," I started. Her head snapped up. "You put my address on loan papers, used my credit, never told your husband, and you lied about the amount. Correct?" She hissed. "Keep your voice down." "I'm not loud," I said softly. Truth just echoes. She looked around, then said through her teeth, "You calling Harlan made this worse." "No, Sable, I told you to tell him before I did. You didn't." "So I did." Her eyes darted, her hand gripping the table edge. She hated that I'd stayed calm. I kept going. "You've turned my retirement into collateral. That's not a mistake. That's a decision." She leaned back, voice rising. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. I'm trying to fix everything, Harlan's business, the house, the market." "Which family are you fixing?" I interrupted. "Because last weekend, when you called another woman Mom, I didn't hear my name once." That landed like a stone in water. The ripples showed in her face. She switched tactics, eyes watering, voice trembling. "Why are you doing this to me? You're ruining my marriage." I exhaled. "I'm not ruining anything. I'm refusing to let you pawn my life to save yours." Then came the blade. "If you ever call him again," she whispered, "you won't see Arden. No birthdays, no school pickups, no FaceTime. I'll make it legal." She said it calm, practiced, the kind of cruelty that's colder than rage. My chest went tight, not from fear, but from understanding. She just put my granddaughter on the bargaining table. I looked her in the eye. "You do not get to threaten me with my own blood." She smirked, thinking I'd beg. I didn't. I leaned forward. "You cut me off from that child. I go to court. I hire counsel. I show every dollar I paid to keep you standing, every cosign, every transfer, every drive through the night. And when I'm done, you'll wish I just called your husband." Her face drained of color. I continued, steady as stone. "You have 24 hours to tell Harlan the truth. After that, I'm done covering for you." Sable stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. "You are not embarrassing me in front of them again." "Them," I said, "is the problem?" But she was already walking out, heels hitting tile like gunfire. The waitress came by and asked, "You okay, baby?" I smiled. Better than she is. I finished my iced tea, left cash on the table, and walked out into the Texas dusk. The heat wrapped around me, heavy but cleansing. In that parking lot, I knew something final had shifted. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about identity, blood, and boundaries. I whispered to myself, "War's here now, and I didn't start it, but I'll finish it." Sable texted before sunrise. "We're having brunch. Mama, you're coming. We're going to clear the air so people stop talking." That last line told me everything. She wasn't seeking peace. She was doing damage control. After the diner showdown, word had spread. I didn't respond for a while. Then I decided to go. Not for her. For the witnesses. Once someone threatens to cut you off from your grandbaby, you stop meeting in private. The place was one of those North Dallas brunch spots where the air smells like money and perfume, where people lean in not to listen but to eavesdrop. I walked in calm, slacks pressed, pearl earrings on, not a victim, not a showpiece, just a woman with receipts. Sable was already at the long table, smiling too wide, voice too bright. Beside her sat Seraphine d'Amour, wrapped in silk, fingers resting on a glass of champagne like it was jewelry. Harlan looked tired, his eyes quiet but sharp. Two couples I didn't know filled the ends of the table, laughing politely like people who don't yet realize they're about to witness a car crash. Sable waved me over. "This is Delphine," she said, motioning vaguely. "She's involved. Not my mother, not Arden's grandmother, just involved. Like I was the help." Then she turned to Seraphine. "And this is the woman who basically taught me how to run a real household, because Lord knows I didn't grow up seeing that." That hit like a slap wrapped in linen. I didn't flinch. I folded my napkin and said, "Good to finally meet the teacher." My tone was cool enough to frost her champagne. Half an hour in, the mimosas had loosened tongues. The table buzzed with talk about renovations, private schools, and vacations. None of it real, all of it performance. Then Sable leaned back, eyes bright with cruelty disguised as charm. She raised her voice just enough. "You will never be as good as my mother-in-law," she said, pointing her fork toward me. "Never. Seraphine taught me how to be a wife, how to hold a home together, how to move like a lady. You just like to play the victim." The room went still. Fork stopped midair. Seraphine didn't stop her. She smiled, letting the insult breathe. It was the kind of silence that hums, humiliation mixed with clarity. I didn't raise my voice. I leaned forward, steady. "I don't take what isn't mine. I don't spend what I can't pay back. Can you say the same? Baby?" That baby wasn't affection, it was diagnosis. Her fake smile cracked. Harlan's head turned, curiosity sharpening into concern. I looked at Seraphine. "Since you're the one who taught her how to run a household, ma'am, maybe you can help her with the calls from the bank. They've been calling me, and I'm retired." It dropped like thunder in fine china. You could feel the air shift. Harlan's fork froze midair. "What bank?" he asked, voice low. Sable's hand trembled. "Mama, stop!" I smiled. "No, I think we should all stop pretending." Sable laughed nervously, waving her hand. "She's just confused. She doesn't understand how finances work these days. Gaslight, plain as day." I stayed composed. "Oh, I understand just fine. My name's on debts your husband doesn't even know exist." Harlan turned to her. "What debts?" Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The clients at the end of the table stared. Seraphine's perfect posture broke. Her hand slipped off her glass. The performance was cracking right down the middle. I folded my napkin neatly. "Since Seraphine is the standard for wives," I said, slow and deliberate, "maybe she'll also help you pay off that $1 million debt. Because I will not send you another dime." The sound of Harlan's fork hitting his plate was louder than any shout. One of the clients coughed. Seraphine's face drained of color. Sable whispered, "What debt?" Harlan's voice cut through the quiet. "What money? We've never gotten a penny from your mother." Every eye turned to her. The balance of power shifted right there, in the middle of that brunch table. I didn't smile. I just reached for my water, took a sip, and thought, now she knows what exposure tastes like. The Dallas twilight looked like a bruise, purple, swollen, full of leftover heat. When I pulled up to the Keene house, the air was heavy, blinds drawn tight, like the walls already knew what was coming. Harlan had texted earlier, "Please come. I need to see everything." That was a man ready to face the fire. Inside, the house was still dressed for brunch, half-empty glasses, lipstick on napkins, the scent of perfume mixed with cologne and lies. Harlan sat at the kitchen island, sleeves rolled, whiskey untouched. Sable paced the floor, muttering curses under her breath. Seraphine Damour was perched on a bar stool, crossed legs and superiority, pretending to mediate but really managing optics. I placed my manila folder on the counter. "We're not guessing anymore," I said. My tone was level, not loud. Truth doesn't need volume. It just needs proof. Harlan looked at Sable. "How much money? How many accounts?" "It's not what you think," she started, voice trembling. "Don't tell me what it's not," he snapped. "Tell me what it is." Her eyes darted toward Seraphine, searching for rescue. Seraphine sighed, playing queen of control. "Harlan, don't speak to her that way. This is between the women." "Ma'am," I said, meeting her eyes. "No, this is between the signatures on those papers, mine and hers." I opened the folder, spread out the pages, the forged loan, my name, copied in black ink that wasn't mine. "This one was never notarized," I said quietly. "That's a felony in Texas." The room went silent except for the ceiling fan. Harlan's knuckles turned white against the marble. I could feel the temperature drop. He slammed his hand down. "You forged your mother's name? You opened credit in her retirement ID?" Sable started crying. "It was temporary. I was fixing things." "No, baby," I said. "You were fixing a lifestyle." Seraphine stood up. "Everyone borrows from family. You act like she committed murder." I looked straight at her. "She stole, and you blessed it." Harlan's voice broke into a shout. "How much is left?" "It's gone," Sable whispered. He laughed, sharp and bitter. "Gone? You mean the cars, the spa trips, the weekends in Palm Springs, all gone on her name?" I didn't move. I just said, "You wanted the truth. Harlan, that's the cost of it." He grabbed his laptop, fingers shaking, eyes scanning numbers. "There's another account," he muttered, "under your maiden name. 38,000 from our joint savings." Sable's face drained. Seraphine's chin lifted like a flag of arrogance. "That's not your concern," she said coolly. "It's my money," he barked. "You coached her on this?" Seraphine stiffened. "Watch your tone." I slid another paper toward him. "As of Friday," I said evenly, "all my assets were moved into trust. Nobody's name but mine is on anything I own." The sound of that line was thunder in the room. Not loud, final. Seraphine tried to reclaim control. "You don't speak to me like that in my son's house." I turned toward her. "Then maybe it's time you stop acting like it's your son's house." Harlan's voice followed, quiet but lethal. "Mother, please leave." Her face froze, disbelief turning into panic. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "When pride loses its audience," I told the listeners later, "it starts to sound like threat." Seraphine left without her glass. The front door closed like a gavel. Sable collapsed into a chair, sobbing, not from guilt, just exposure. Harlan stood, shoulders shaking. "Miss Delphine," he said softly, "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize to me," I said. "Fix your house." I gathered my papers, slid them back into the folder, and walked toward the door. Behind me, Sable whispered, "You hate me now." I stopped, looked back once. "No, baby, hate takes work. I'm retired." Then I walked out into the Dallas night, where the air finally broke and rain began to fall. It didn't cool the storm. It just marked that it had passed through. 2 weeks of silence can sound louder than any argument. My phone stopped ringing. The house went still, and even the wind through my porch trees felt cautious. Houston mornings carried a kind of quiet weight, the kind that follows a storm you survived but haven't processed yet. I still woke at 6, made my coffee, sat at the counter. But now, the ticking clock sounded like proof that peace had returned, even if my heart didn't quite believe it. Neighbors asked, "How's your daughter doing?" I'd smile gently. "Learning." I'd say it was the truth. She was learning that consequences don't skip generations. My lawyer, Porter Renoir, called with updates. Harlan had filed for separation. Restitution discussions were underway. There was even talk of criminal review if the forged documents came to light. I didn't celebrate. I just breathed. Justice doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like paperwork in a quiet kitchen. Harlan called next. His voice was stripped of pride. "I filed reports with the bank," he said. "You'll probably need to testify." "You do what's right," I told him. "I'll tell the truth if asked." Word spread fast in Dallas. Whispers about financial misconduct, forged loans, the mother who protected herself. Seraphine D'Amour vanished from her social circle. The Queen had lost her court, and nobody sent flowers. I remember thinking, in Texas, shame travels faster than wind. But if it's not yours, it feels like clean air. Then one afternoon, Sable appeared at my gate. No makeup, hair unkempt, sunglasses too big for her thin face. She looked like a woman who'd been living with echoes. "Mama," she said, voice small. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I opened the gate slowly. "Baby, you meant every dollar. You just didn't expect the bill," she cried. They all turned on me. Even Seraphine. "I have nothing." "You have the truth now," I said. "It costs more than money, but it keeps longer." She nodded weakly. Eyes red. "What do I do now?" I handed her a water bottle. "Start by drinking this, then go face yourself." Forgiveness didn't bloom right then, but something softer did. Recognition. I didn't hug her, but I didn't turn her away. Days later, I got a call from her lawyer. "Ms. Kersey, Sable's requesting to discuss visitation for your granddaughter, Arden. Harlan is pursuing custody. He's asked you to testify on his behalf." I paused. The line was quiet except for the sound of my own breath. "She's not dangerous," I said. "She's lost." Well, when the court day came, I wore navy blue, calm, clear, unshaken. The judge asked, "Do you believe your daughter poses a risk to her child?" I answered, "She betrayed me, but she loves her daughter. I'm here for my granddaughter, not revenge." The courtroom held its breath. Even Harlan's lawyer softened his posture. The judge nodded. Truth has its own gravity when spoken without bitterness. Weeks later, the ruling came. Sable to repay partial debt over 5 years. Counseling required, visitation limited. Harlan kept custody but ensured I'd see Arden freely. Seraphine, refusing to testify. sold her house, and fled to Florida. Retiring early, they said, exile wearing perfume. Harlan visited me once more in Houston. You didn't have to stand up for her, he said quietly. I wasn't standing up for her, I replied. I was standing up for the child who still needs both her parents someday. That night, I brewed chamomile tea and sat in my living room surrounded by silence that finally felt kind. My papers were filed, my name clean, my soul uncluttered. I looked at an old photo of Sable as a child holding a toy house. I whispered, I hope you build one now and pay for it yourself. Then my phone buzzed. FaceTime. Arden's little face filled the screen. Grandma, I saw a rainbow today. I smiled, warmth flooding my chest. Me too, baby. Sometimes you just have to survive the rain to see it. That afternoon in Houston, the sun slid through my blinds like gold silk. The house was quiet. Just me and the hum of the fridge. I stepped onto the porch to get the mail, same as always. Bills, flyers, and one white envelope from the bank. My name and Sable's printed together. My chest went still before my hands even tore it open. Inside, a final notice for a late payment on an account I never opened. I read it twice, then once more, not from confusion, from disbelief that she'd still try it after everything. I sat down on the porch swing, the air heavy with that mix of heat and memory. I whispered to myself, a woman my age learns that panic is expensive, calm is cheaper. And I meant it. This wasn't about rage anymore. This was arithmetic, subtraction, boundaries, correction. I called Porter Renoir, my lawyer. Set it up, I said. Everyone at the table. We end this today. He didn't ask what I meant. He already knew. 2 days later, I was in Dallas again, in a conference room that smelled like coffee and new carpet. At the long table, me, Porter, Harlan, his attorney, Sable, and a young bank officer with perfect posture. Seraphine was gone. Out of the picture. Out of excuses. Sable looked worn but still painted, as if she could powder over shame. The officer slid a folder forward. These credit lines were opened under Miss Kersey's name, he said. Tone neutral. Using this signature. My forged name stared back at me. One elegant lie after another. Porter spoke calmly, effective immediately. Miss Kersey is absolved of all responsibility related to these accounts. Her name is to be removed as guarantor. That was the sound of the blade falling. Clean. Final. I didn't gloat. I just watched Sable's eyes move over the papers like someone reading their own obituary. When the officer left to make copies, I turned to her. From this minute, you do not use my name on paper. You do not use my address. You do not send collectors my way. I'm not your safety line anymore. Mama, please, she said, voice cracking. I said I was sorry. I know, I said softly. I accept your apology. I don't accept the bill. Her lip trembled. So that's it? You're done with me? No, I answered. I'm done funding you. Whether you stay my daughter, that's up to how you live next, not how you cry now. The room went still. Harlan's eyes met mine. He finally saw the scale of it, the years of theft wrapped in family. When the officer returned, Porter slid the last document across the table. This affidavit, he said, protects Miss Kersey from any future financial misuse. Sable looked at me, desperate. Mama, you wouldn't press charges on your own child. I held her gaze. Try me. Harlan's lawyer quietly turned on the recorder. That sentence went into the record. Same as truth. As we stood, Sable reached out but stopped mid-air. That hesitation, that small, broken motion was the proof that the power had changed hands. "You can reach me when you're clean and honest," I said. "Not before." She nodded, tears slipping silently. "I'll fix it. Mama, I swear I'll fix it." I didn't answer. Some silences aren't meant to be filled. "On the way out," Harlan said quietly, "thank you for protecting Arden." "Protect her mama, too," I told him. "She's still got time to be someone her child can brag about." That evening, back in Houston, I sat at my kitchen table, my name, my piece. I lit a small candle, just one. The mail pile was gone, no debt notices, no noise. I spoke to the listeners, my age and older. Love your people, help your people. But don't finance the lies they live. You're not an ATM. You're not collateral. Saying no doesn't make you cruel. It makes you free. My phone buzzed. A FaceTime from Arden. "Grandma," she giggled. "Daddy said I can come next weekend. Can we make pancakes?" I smiled. "Baby, I already bought the syrup." And I sat there a long while after, candle flickering, heart quiet. I had my house back. Not the building, the peace inside it. You can call me bitter if you want. I call it paid in full. That night, as I blew out the candle, I noticed one envelope left on the counter. Smaller, older, with no return address. My name written in Sable's handwriting. Inside was a single key and a note that read, "You forgot this." I froze, wondering, to which house did it belong?